Hebrew system. It is an ancient, quote, Egyptian, unquote, a term that does not refer to an ethnic definition, but Moorish, in terms of system, in terms of keys, in terms of how to A, write a truth and hide it, how to unlock that truth and know it. That is what Moorish science is. It is not the Bible. It is not the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, or any other scriptural book. But the means, the method of structuring hidden knowledge. Okay? To further emphasize, the Book of the Dead is not the Book of the Dead. It is the book of the mistress of the secret house. Mistress being the feminine for master, just as it is the book of the master of the secret house. Which means our ancestors are the keepers of the secrets. If you wonder why the Masonic, like one sister asked me, she's not here today, she's supposed to come, and needs to be here. Why do they hide this stuff? And the truth of the matter, it is not man that is the author of secret knowledge. It is the universe that is the author of secret knowledge. The concept mystery in its clarity means private, keep out. It is a privilege to gain truth. A privilege. Not a nonchalant, casual affair. And the knowledge protects itself, so there's no fear of what the evil will do with it. They will undo their own causes if they misuse that knowledge. I wanted to start with defining these terms, but I think what I'll do is reach first into the book of Ruth. And the reason for that is this is the book in the Bible that the Negro Christian Eastern Star is directed to. Okay? Does anybody know what the ethnic definition or ethnic group that Ruth came out of?
She was
a Moabite is right. Now, here is where Noble Ali made a peculiar curve, or threw us a curve in terms of ethnicity. In keeping with the theologics of genealogy, the Moabite tribe comes out of the house of Lut, who is called Lot in the Bible. Remember, Abraham and Lot went into Egypt. If we are of the house of Lot, who are those in Egypt? The question I raise. So the term is misdirective concerning tracing back our footsteps to the past. It does not take us directly into the land referred to again as Egypt. But the history tells us those are our ancestors, you see.
Is that true?
According to history, we are of that particular house, the house of Ra, the ancient mystery school, those that occupy the territories now called Africa.
Well, what I was trying to say is that if Abraham descended into Egypt was already there, and Lot was his nephew, so if the Moabites had descended from the house of Lot, was it before they went to was after Egypt, or how does that connect with Egypt?
Lot and Abraham comes out historically.
Or the Chaldees.
The Chaldean.
And then when they destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot lived in a cave with his two daughters or something. But anyway, what I'm trying to ask is, how, if we come from the Moabite which group is descended from the house of Lot.
Right.
And how are we connected with Egypt?
That's what I'm explaining. We don't come from the house of Lot.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what I'm pointing out.
Okay, that's what
Okay. The term Moabitess had more appreciable honor at the point where Drew Ali enters the picture, and Africa was Booga Booga land, with no prestige, no glory, no civilization, but a tribe of savages. That was the mental image of the African at the time that Drew Ali was on the scene. And he could not change that in the minds of millions of Negroes who suffered from a gross inferiority complex. See? And perhaps the same reason why Elijah Muhammad did not point in that direction. He stated we were Asiatics, but that is also what Drew Ali had said. And then put up a Japanese symbol as a symbol of the black man as Asiatic. The sun with the red rays coming from it is the flag of Japan. And so that particular dismembering of the African in America from the African of Africa, using political terms, has been part of the problem of regrouping, and why both Elijah as well as Farrakhan have been late not only getting into Africa but identifying with the black man of Africa on a prestigious level again. In the 60s, when you'd see black men walking around in dashikis and African garments, the kids on the bus would go, booga booga, you know. Yeah, these are black kids, you know. I'm talking 1965, 66, 67. It was still a point of ridicule. So we're looking at the psychological scar of a people about a place that was ruled by one white man and a monkey. See? A white man who had never been in Africa wrote the story of Tarzan. You see? Okay? So we're looking at the distortion and how to correct it. And most importantly, the black woman has no prestige as an intellectual being, and secondly, no prestige as a spiritual initiate. And certainly she has no prestige as a god or goddess. So we need to correct that. Okay, all right. That's what we're doing with this level of information. Let me get to the book of Ruth. Some of you Moors should have a Bible by now after 3 months. Should you not? And just didn't bring it. I see.
I wasn't here last week. So.
Yes, we know you were not here, dear. I was here. I know you weren't here. The reason I keep using scriptures is not to convert you to Christianity or reconvert you, but this is the place where the confusion rests most predominant in terms of things spiritual for the masses of black folks. This is the only book the majority of black folks trust. There's a small group that are into Quran, and a teensy bit that are into the Bhagavad Gita or other scriptures. Secondly, this is the book that it was designed to explain and hold the knowledge of self. It is emblematic of woman and man. I cannot say that about Quran. I can almost say it about the Bhagavad Gita. But there's a line of definitive that runs through all of them concerning universal principles that I can most assuredly say, and a reference of the fact that those scriptures of other religions deal with man as God, including the Quran. To offer an explanation of why I keep making reference to the Bible, okay, and the fact that other Moors don't do that. In fact, some Moors are so mad at this book, they want to take it and throw it away forever. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read some of it as I explain the symbolic significance of the spiritual ideal. The Eastern Star is in reference to the idea of the Christ that is stated in Matthew, that the wise, who are the Magi, who were Sufi, who were Persians, which means they were Ethiopians, are the ones who saw his star in the east. The Eastern Star is the star between the eyebrows that you see in deeper meditation. There's a perfect five-pointed star that will appear. It will be either silver, gold, or bright white light, depending on where you are in your own spiritual development. That is the Eastern Star. That is the goal of the Eastern Star initiate. Ruth represents the highest spiritual personality of Old Testament because she is the propagator of, in that genealogy, the son of David, who is a part of the genealogy of Jesus. That's theology, okay? Why Ruth is used in both the book and in the order is because Ruth is truth. Okay, let me get to this explanation here. Now, here's the interesting part about this breakdown of names as knowledge and meaning of things. Let me turn to it before I start so I won't have to do that when I start talking. If you have a metaphysical dictionary, which you should bring to class, we're going to use these books. We aren't just buying them. Yeah. I can't let you all use all of their books and not buy them. Okay, you get them smudgy. I know he does. That's the reason I mentioned it. Okay. Now it came about in the days when the judges governed that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judea went to sojourn in the land of Moab with his wife and 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech. And Elimelech means God is king. And the name of his wife is Naomi. Naomi means beautiful one. Excuse me, Naomi means beauty. Ruth means beautiful one. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahalon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem. Bethlehem means the house of life, or the house of bread. Bethlehem, in that Yiddish articulation. The house of life, the house of bread. Bethlehem, or Bethlehem. And they took for themselves Moabite women, Naomi's 2 sons. The name of the one was Orpha, and the name of the other was Ruth. So we have this brief genealogy. Now, here's what happens. Then both Mahalon and Chilion also died, and the woman was bereft of her children and her husband. So she became what? All right. She becomes the widow. Now we know that in the Masonic order, by looking at 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 13, write that down. You already got them notes, brother. 1 Kings 7:13. Who is the theme of that particular chapter? I'm asking him. All right. Hiram-Abiff, who is what? The widow's son. Okay. What has not been explained, and it usually is not, who is the widow and what does the widow mean? Okay. That's the emphasis of this particular lecture, to unveil Isis. Now what I was supposed to do was to quote this quote of Isis. I am she who was and is to come, and no man has ever lifted my veil. Okay, that's the quote of Isis. Osset. Okay, now, what I'm supposed to do now is hand you all a picture that I'm supposed to have Xeroxed from this book. So I'll just let you see it, and maybe later we'll get a picture of it. Okay. It's one of the few emblems in carving of the features of Isis as a broad-nosed, thick-lipped, furled-haired, dark-skinned Mooress instead of looking like some white girl, which is what the European artists did with that image in finding out her spiritual status in the Egyptological body of literatures. They whitened everybody that had any prestige that they could. In fact, part of what Napoleon was doing was disconnecting the Moor, the African Moor, from the pyramid itself by disfiguring the Sphinx. He could have shot off the shoulder, the paw, the head, but instead he shot off the nose. Then after this enormous collection of artifice stolen from the land and photographed, we see hundreds of thousands of statues of black men and women around the country here and around the country in Britain of the noses knocked off. Of course, their reason is, oh, they fell. Okay, so we understand something. Two things we understand. The nose is knowing. The knowledge is broken. The family is defeated. And of course the other, we are identified essentially by nose, lips, and complexion, you see, in terms of that group of people collectively in the continent of Africa, because there are black people, jet black, with thin lips, alpine nose, and long wavy hair. You know, the East Indian. See?
And it fits that.
Huh?
It classifies them as white.
Are you talking to me or are you talking to yourself?
I said they classify them as white.
And not only they did that, Blavatsky did that. She called the Egyptians black Caucasians, even though she knows the term Caucasian comes from Caucasus Mountains, you see. But again, understand, we've had a cultural conspiracy, and it was and still is very real. And why the scrambling to correct this knowledge in terms of bringing about the process of healing the psyche of all of us, but essentially at this point, urgently, it is to heal the psyche of our children who still carry a distorted image of themselves. Okay? And Dennis Rodman is not helping with his multicolored hair and his crazy psyche, who has a terrible inferiority complex. Okay. Let me get on it before I get off on something else here. Okay, so Ruth becomes the stepdaughter of who?
Naomi.
No,
I mean, she becomes
of who particularly? You just said it. Of a widow.
of the widow.
Okay, that's the key. Now, here's the other key. Naomi is what to her?
Her mother-in-law.
Very good. Another key, Masonic. What does mother-in-law mean?
She was married to her.
No, look at the words first before you start answering. What does mother-in-law mean? Well, that's what it says. What does it mean? I'm gonna make you strain a little bit because I want you to think. Yeah, it's because it's so obvious. It appears to be deep, and it's not. It's right there. Mm-hmm. Yes. This is who? The bringer and the giver of all life, human life. This is the law, universal law. So what law does woman represent? Of what? No. The universal law of attraction, which is what? What virtue is synonymic with the law of attraction? Love. Okay? And what we're trying to do is reconnect these concepts in our psyche, because the West has forgotten the significance of love, not just black folks. But my work is to remind us of what it means and who that woman is who gives us birth in 9 months. She is the representation of divine law in manifestation. She is walking, talking, living God who does what God does, creates in 9 months her son, and creates in 9 months, not her daughter, mother, because a daughter can become mother, but a son cannot. Okay. Universal law of love. How do we know that? By the story told in this particular book. Listen to this. Then she arose with her daughter-in-law that she might return from the land of Moab, for she had heard in the land of Moab that the Lord had visited his people in giving them food. So she departed from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they were on their way to return to the land of Judea. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters, Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. May the Lord grant you that you may find rest, and so forth. And they said to her, No, but we will surely return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Return, my daughters, why should you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Return, my daughters, go. I am too old to have a husband. I said, I have hope if I should even have a husband tonight and also bear sons. Would you therefore wait until they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is harder for me than for you. For the hand of the Lord has gone forth against me. And they lifted up their voices and wept. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, Ruth, clinging to her, then said, Behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Okay. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. That's the law of attraction. Okay? Are you understanding that? Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on here. I'm not going to go through all of it because I got a lot of other material I want to cover. But this is my Mother's Day gift to the black woman whenever she can get to the store. Okay, now, as the issue continues on further, and they get back to Bethlehem, the conversation began. So they both went until they came to Bethlehem, and it came about when they had come to Bethlehem that all the city was stirred because of them, and the women said, "Is this Naomi?" Now listen to this. And she said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara." Okay. Right in the lodge, right in the science, right in the knowledge of and the identity of the Mooress. Mara is more. Okay? All right, we're dealing with the Codex Inscriptus, unclothing, unraveling this code of words, of rearranging letters. Okay. All right. The Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has witnessed against me and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and with her Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, who returned from the land of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Barley, wheat, and corn are the symbols of spiritual abilities or psychic powers. Okay? Where can we find that? We can find that in this dictionary, the dictionary of all myth, of all scriptures and myths. Excellent. It's excellent. It could have been better, but he did a fine job of compiling some very important key words in breaking down symbology and the meaning, metaphysical and cosmological meaning of words and terms. Okay. Barley, wheat, and corn is a symbol of... Is knowledge. Excuse me. It is all of the grains represent spiritual talents and psychic abilities, essentially psychic abilities. Okay, like clear vision, foreknowing, visionary, dreams, being able to read the aura, those are psychic abilities. Those are not the abilities of the soul. Those are the abilities of the brain mind of man and woman. I'll point that out again as we move on here. I don't want to spend the whole thing on this here. We want to get to Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I may find favor." So she departed and went and gleaned in the field at the reaping, with the reapers. To glean in the field is to work to develop one's psychic abilities. The field is mind, not ground, but mind. So she departed and went and gleaned in the field and after the reapers, and she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Boaz is who in scriptural symbology. Anybody remember? No. Well, no, you're almost right there. I'll just do it this way. Boaz and Jachin. Yes, the sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Now that's key in appreciating this as a revelation for the initiate in the Eastern Star Order. Okay, because if you look at the ritual of the Eastern Star's manual, they are doing no more than services and servants to the Masonic order. Okay? But we want to look deeper than that superficial ritualistic level here. Now, behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "May the Lord be with you." And they said, "May the Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to the servants who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" Okay, so he notices Ruth. I won't go into the rest of that. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen carefully, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you." Okay, I'm missing the point there. Now here at verse 20, chapter 3, verse 20 of the book of Ruth. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed of the Lord, who has not withdrawn his kindness to the living and to the dead." Again Naomi said to her, "The man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives." Okay. Now we are seeing Naomi as a spiritual factor or faculty, as an ability or power. Remember, Naomi's name means what? Beauty. Yes. But she's one of our closest relatives. Okay. There's no relative any closer to any of us than our spiritual faculties. Okay. Let me put it that way, to break it down without dragging it on here. What is a maid, or what are maids, or what are handmaidens? What do? They serve and help. Okay. We'll see this as we get to the end of the 4 chapters in what that means in terms of the spiritual woman as well as the spiritual son or man. Okay, I'm trying to skip over here and not deal with all of this. Okay, now here's the other point. Now she explains to her to go wash and clean herself up, and then, even when he's not noticing her, to go and lay down with him. Okay, here's the verse. "And it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go and uncover his feet and lie down. Then he will tell you what you shall do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law had commanded. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain, and she came securely and uncovered his feet and lay down. Okay. What's that symbol of? Thank you. What does Pisces govern? Thank you. Metaphysically, what do the feet mean? represent? Very good. The one I'd least expected to know that. Thank you very kindly. Understanding. Okay. Very good. Very good. There's a couple of quotes here I wanted to make. I think I just bypassed it. Oh, I got it written here. Let's see. Now, I don't have the verse here, so I got to find it. He winnows barley at the threshing floor. He winnows barley at the threshing floor. Does anyone know what the word winnowing means? He winnows barley at the threshing floor. That's right. He's sorting out the chaff from the good grain, sorting out the positive abilities, talents, and gifts from that which is not a gift, talent, or ability. Then she goes to him, and he gives her, I'm covering the board here, 6 measures of barley. How many senses does the average man have? And how many senses does the psychic man have? All right. 6 is half of what? Okay, she's male, he's, excuse me, she's female. He's, okay, all right. So you have what? The full circle. Okay, all right, right. Okay, I've skipped a few important little verses here, so I bid you read the whole chapter. It's only 4 thin pages, won't take you long. And with those keys I've given you, can finish unraveling the rest of it here. Now, here at the very end, after Boaz marries Ruth, and then they are given a son, and the son's name is Perez. To Perez was born, and he gives the genealogy. And the genealogy of the son of Ruth by Perez is 12 sons. Okay? And we know that's not a mistake. Okay? Briefly, the genealogy is Hezron, Ram, Aminadab, Nashon, Salmon. To Salmon was born Boaz, and to Boaz Obed, and to Obed was born Jesse, and to Jesse David. 12 sons, okay. Which of course we know means and represents the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 faculties of the spiritual man or body or woman. Okay. So what I'm showing here in this particular book, or what the book is showing, is that woman has the same spiritual path as man in terms of the 12 faculties, but what is proper in the light of Moorish science is to emphasize and state, where's my eraser? Here it is. Okay, everybody's got this. Oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? I ain't explained none of this, and here I'm erasing all this stuff. Lord have mercy. Okay. Okay, Maia, Zedekias, Queen of Heaven, Revelations chapter 12. I'm going to do this briefly. I want to try to get all of this in. Oops, I'll get it. Revelations chapter 12. Watch it again. Put it in the basket for me. And a great sign appeared in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet. Verse 1. And on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. So what do we have in symbology? in relationship to Moorish science. She's a woman and she was with child. Give me the symbols I should draw on the board. Yes, you do. The crescent? That's right. That's who? Ma, son. That's right. Mother and son. And now you remember, you know that now, right? Okay. All right. The fact that she has 12 stars on her head is representation of the 12 beings in zodiac. The fact that she's standing on the moon is the fact that the moon is what she rules. Mother, Cancer, the moon. Okay? All right. And the added factor, of course, the fact that she's with child. Okay? Jesus has already been born back here, right? Okay, so what is he doing in Revelation? This is not Jesus. Okay. It is a symbological representation of the meaning of mother and son. Okay, all right. All right, that same mother is the widow. I was supposed to do that after I mentioned the other factor there. I'll have to put some more names up there. What is the widow? And who is the widow in symbology? Turn to the back of the dollar bill. Thank you. The black widow spider. Why is that a significant symbol? No, about the spider, about the black widow. That's second. What's the primary? About the black widow. She has no husband. All right, yes, okay. Yes. Well, she's already a black widow, but she eats her husband. And she does what else? What does the black widow spider do? What is her main work? All right. She spins what? So the web is whose? And her web is who? All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, before we get to the queen of the South, we need to talk about Mu, Mut. Oh, first we need to talk about Maia. This is the spelling we usually get in most books for Maia. That's pronounced Maya. When it's corrected, the Y becomes the I. It is Maia, and Maia means first parent or original parent. In the Hindu text, Maia is represented as the illusion of creation. But in the ancient Aztec script, Maia is original or first parent. Mut. Let me do this over. Turn to Genesis chapter 2 if you have a Biblos Holios. Which means what? No, it does not. What does Helios mean? Fire. The book of fire, the book of light. Yes. What did I mention just before I said that? Because it went zip. Moot. And what else?
Genesis.
Thank you. Yes. She is called who in the scriptures? Right, yeah, right. That's the name. What is she called? Genesis 2. Write this down now because I want you to read these. These will be on the inquiry. And most of the folks on that inquiry should be right back in here. Most of them should be right back in here going right back through this. I was amazed. You know, they missed so much. Because the thing is, this is a classroom. After the classroom, you go study. You know? That's why I give you verses and books to read. I want you to study. And why I keep throwing questions at you, not to embarrass you, but to see if you have the spontaneity of recall when you're dealing with certain information. Okay, that's my reasoning. Then the Lord formed man of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. That's the second creation. Let's turn to the first creation, which is Genesis chapter 2.
What was the first chapter?
Hold on just a second. I thought I had written that down. Darn it. I wrote the what's called down, didn't write down the verse. Hold on just a second here. Okay. Genesis chapter 3, verse 20. No, verse 21. Genesis 3:21. Now listen to this carefully. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. Then he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh of that place. And the Lord God fashioned into a woman the rib which he had taken from the man and brought her to the man. All right, now, how many of y'all believe that? I don't think I've ever heard a preacher. I don't think I've ever heard a preacher ask the congregation how many of the women in there believe that. It would be interesting to see the response. Okay, this is Eve. That's the anagrammatic writing and meaning of Eve. The letter D, which equals 22. Now, there are two words in the book, but not in the Old Testament, that gives the key to this mystery. It is found in the New Testament in reference to Jesus, of all people. And the reference is two words. Rabbi, which is Hebrew, and Rabboni, which is Latin. Why would a Jew call a Jew master or teacher by a Latin name, is the question the scholar or the curious one would ask. Rabboni. What did he take out of Eve? Out of Adam? Right. And what is a rib? What is a rib? Thank you. Do you see any word that looks like bone up there? Thank you. All right. The meaning of Rabboni is master, teacher. Wait, hold hold on a second. The meaning of Eve, V, and V, the letter 22 means the master builder. Now, when something is going very fast, like a fan, and you slow it down, what happens to it? First of all, you can see it has several blades, the first thing. Okay. It becomes more material. Okay. The idea here is in the story form. It tells you exactly what happens if you first know who this is. Adam is who? Right. Is atom. And he put a deep sleep upon Adam. And he slowed Adam down. All right. Then out of Adam, he took the vibration of 22, the master builder, and the master teacher. How do we know he's a master teacher? Because Adam does what? He names all the animals in creation. See? What does name mean? No, it does not. Name means nature, function, purpose, ability. Name tells you what a thing is and does. Okay? All right, now, we should have one more name. The name that is comparable to her is this name, Mut, the mother of all living things. So we see where this concept comes from. Then we see in the hieroglyphic the god Nu, sitting at the potter's wheel, making man out of clay. Okay. So we know where the story of Genesis, in terms of the creation of man, gets its origin from. Now, what I wanted to do, did I write this one down here? Genesis 3:20. Okay, I got that. Now, listen to this. And the woman said to the serpent, no, first let me put the serpent up there. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, indeed, has God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may not eat. We may eat. But from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it, or touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you surely shall not die, for God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open. Okay, where's my... Okay, let me show you what eyes he's talking about. isn't a very good depiction, but for right now it'll have to do. This is the left eye of Horus. That is the right eye of Horus. The left is what spiritually? The right is what spiritually? The left side of the body is what? Feminine. The right side of the body is what? Masculine. Your eyes will be open. Okay. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from it fruit and ate. And she gave it also to Adam, or to the man, it states, or to her husband. He ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loin coverings. Now, turn to Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. Genesis 3:22. Then the Lord God said, Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now, lest he stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Okay? The mythology is dealing with what those two trees are. The tree of good and evil is what? What is good and evil in universal law? In the universal law. Thank you. What is the tree of life? In spiritual physiology or anatomy is the cerebral spinal nervous system, is the tree of life. Okay. That is the tree that they were forbidden to eat from. The tree of life, which is in the middle of the garden. Where's the garden? No, that can't be the garden. Where's the garden? The garden is of Eden. It can't be in the spine. Huh? No, the body. What is this? Need. Not desire, need. See it there? Okay, that's in the anagrammatic form. What we need is the soul, is the self. That's where the power is. That's where everlasting life is. That's where the knowledge is the soul, is the self. Okay? Did I lose anybody there? Huh? I did? Huh? That's the allegory. What the allegory is showing you is that reaching the spiritual nature is by going through the physical system of the cerebral brain, nervous systems, the sympathetic nervous system, and the autonomous nervous system that allows you to experience duality, both good and evil. That's what you experience on the third dimensional plane. When you go up the highway, the spinal cord, you become G-O-D. Okay? So they were kicked out of the garden of need. You see? And a cherubim was set in the middle of with a flaming sword. See, what is a flaming sword? First of all, what is a sword? Right. And if the word is flaming fire, what does it do? No, it does not burn away anything if it keeps you out. Yes. What does heat do to the blood? Gives you passion and lust and confusion. And sends you outside to satisfy your thirst. You see. Because after you were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, you had to do what? You had to till the earth, the dust of the earth, of which they are made. You see. You had to tend to the desires of the body, of the elements, of the minerals from which you were made. Okay. All right. Now, after all of that, at the very end of this list of remarkable black women as symbols of knowledge, wisdom, and power, is the last one mentioned. Queen of the South. Does anybody remember the quote? It's in the book of Matthew. I don't know what verse, so I don't remember.
The Queen of the South shall rise up and destroy
Go on.
her enemies.
No, there's another word, very important word. Destroy what? Destroy this generation. The Queen of the South shall rise up and destroy this generation. Who was the Queen of the South? Who was first? Who was the woman? All right. Sheba. Who is what? No, you're getting past me. Who is means what? No, it does not. Sheba, which means what?
The Sabbath, the Sabbath.
What does? All right. That's what Sheba, Seba, Saba, Saboth